all these things that the Browns media likes to, just fight this almost invisible enemy. Guys, y'all are talking to Twitter commenters, right? You're letting Twitter comments get the best of y'all.
He said it plain. No hedging. The CU Aunties are not bots. They are not some made-up cult. And the Browns media has spent months fighting an enemy that barely exists outside of Twitter replies. That one line broke down a narrative that critics have been running with for over a year. Here is everything.
But then when we start having these conversations about some of these media members, I think you have to understand that the way that they look at it isn't real life. The way that the media members and the Jason Lloyds and the way that they look at things aren't the way that the average person looks at things. And I've been here. I'm no football analyst.
Before he even gets to the Aunties, he lays out the real problem. Media members do not see the world the way regular fans do. He brings up names like Jason Lloyd and Zach Jackson, not to start beef, just to make a point that stuck with him. These are people who live inside the Browns beat every single day, who talk to other reporters more than they talk to fans, and somewhere in that bubble, their read on the room gets warped. He is not a football analyst. He never claims to be. He says he is just here to show people what the fans actually want. And what the fans want is to see Shedeur get dangerous. That gap between the beat writers and the real fan base is exactly where this whole story starts.
He understands the reason why people love Shedeur, and here he is showing love to the CU Aunties. I saw some pictures on a few different social media platforms of the CU Aunties coming in support. And I want to yap about this, right? I talked about the media, I talked about their perception, and I feel like so often, the Browns media gets to yell and bark and say these obscenities and say these very disrespectful things about.
This is where it gets personal. He shouts out G. Bush for being on site in Cleveland and actually showing love to the CU Aunties, posting pictures of them showing up in support. And then he pivots hard. He says the Browns media gets to yell and bark and say disrespectful things about these women like they are imaginary, like they are some made-up group that exists only to be mocked. That is the setup. That is the narrative he is about to take apart piece by piece.
These imaginary people you call the CU Aunties, but they're not imaginary. They're not this made-up cultists. They're not bots. They're not all these things that the Browns media likes to, just fight this almost invisible enemy. Guys, y'all are talking to Twitter commenters, right? You're letting Twitter comments get the best of y'all.
And here is the takedown. Not imaginary, not a made-up cult, not bots, not any of the things the Browns media likes to pretend they are fighting. He calls it what it is, an almost invisible enemy that only exists because grown adults with media platforms are letting Twitter comments live rent-free in their heads. Think about that for a second. People with actual jobs covering an NFL team are shaping national narratives around a handful of anonymous accounts. And calling an entire community of real women bots to make the story fit. That is not analysis. That is laziness dressed up as commentary.
Because when you see the real CU Aunties and you see nothing but support and love and smile, and you see the average person there in Cleveland supporting, loving, recognizing the hard work. Hey man, don't tell Rex Ryan that. Don't tell certain individuals about the hard work Shedeur puts in. They're not gonna believe you. But seeing that, for years, the CU Aunties, it went from almost a term of endearment to now, people want to turn on them and make fun of these young women, right? Who are loving football, learning about football, supporting the lineage of the Sanders, just trying to love them some sports. What is wrong with that? I don't know. But people always got a problem, man. People always got a problem. Shout out to you, Shedeur.
So what happens when you actually look at the real CU Aunties? Nothing but support, love, and smiles. Real people in Cleveland showing up for a player they believe in, recognizing the work he puts in, the same work certain analysts refuse to acknowledge. He points out something that hits different too. For years, this was a term of endearment, and now people want to twist it into a punchline aimed at young women who just love football and love watching the Sanders lineage play the game. His question lands simple and sharp. What is wrong with that? Nobody has a real answer. They just always got a problem. So that is the full picture, a media narrative built on Twitter noise, a group of real supporters turned into an imaginary punching bag, and one honest breakdown that exposes the whole thing for what it is. When the bots narrative falls apart this easily, what does that tell you about everything else being said about Shedeur this camp? Drop a comment, smash like, and subscribe.